This video is going to be more of a review of proper landing and jumping technique in regards to keeping you safe out there on the court or in your field of play. Again, if we're screening out potential risk candidates for ACL injury, we want to look at what's happening at the knee relative to what's going on during movement. So if we're seeing, again, someone that squats or lunge and the tendency is the knee to fall inward, we've already identified someone who's at risk. One way to really tease out someone that's at risk, those exercises may not be pulling it out as well as we'd like, is essentially having them come up onto an elevated platform. What they're going to do is jump down, so they're going to jump down, land, and then jump again. And again, we're looking for that common thread, the common theme of the knees coming inward. And what we're going to do here with Ben is Ben's going to demonstrate what we're talking about. Ben's going to jump down, and then he's going to jump again. So that being said, what we want to look at what's happening at the knees. Again, if we're seeing someone that jumps and lands with the knees falling inward like this to come back up, we've identified someone that's at risk and needs some corrective strategies implemented into their training and proper coaching cues on doing these things. On landing, what we want to make sure is that when Ben lands, that he lands softly, that he lands on the balls of his feet. He doesn't land straight-legged, so he lands with some flexion in both the knee and the hip. All right, these are built-in shock absorbers. If you're landing straight-legged, you're asking for a disaster. Either just from this wear and tear, or you just, it takes that one time for an incident to happen. So when Ben lands here, soft feet on the toes. Notice how he kept his knees nice and neutral. Again, that comes from that good hip control as well. So this is a way that you can practice this. Again, if you're someone that is at risk, I would not recommend starting with something this high. Start with a lower platform. Okay, build that proficiency of landing, maintaining those proper mechanics that we've talked about, keeping those in mind. From there, you can begin to progress upward. Okay, implementing in all those corrective strategies that we talked about as well. The other element that we like to address too is just cutting. In athletics, there's especially basketball, soccer, sports of that nature, football. Of course, change of direction is a big issue in the sport. And one of those things that can help minimize your chance of injury is that during those moments of cutting, whether it be in practice, whether it be in a game, is making sure that you keep your hip, knee, and ankle all in alignment while you're doing this. Ben's going to demonstrate what we're talking about by this. And if you watch any videos on YouTube out there that basically have demonstrated the injury mechanism there for a lot of these professional athletes, you can Google some of that stuff and check out some of these guys that have torn ACLs or females that have torn ACLs and see what their leg does during that moment of injury. What you'll see here, especially in a cutting sense, is that Ben was going to cut from his left to his right. One thing we want to make sure is that that foot is pointing straight ahead with the knee. Oftentimes what you see incorrectly is that that foot comes out too far, and then during that change of direction, that puts a lot more stress on the knee. So one of the things that you want to begin to visually be aware of, mentally pay attention to, excuse me, is that while you're performing this, especially in practice, take the time, slow down, be aware of what you're doing, make sure as you're cutting and in that change of direction moment that you're keeping your body in alignment as best you can. That just comes from building the awareness. And by building that awareness, I mean you have to first mentally pay attention to it. Very much like riding a bike. You have to be very much aware of what you're doing until it basically becomes second nature, because it will just take the time to do those things.